Over the last few years, most of my fishing has been done in the Colne Valley, but there's always been one water close to my heart, which is Cleverley Mere in my hometown of Essex. I joined it 7 years ago. There's a lot of decent fishing here, but the one I really wanted was a fish known as Hendrix. I've done 2 years on here. I fished it hard, fishing most weekends, and unfortunately I never caught it. On my last session, I did manage to catch a fish known as tattoo, which was a common, 29.6, and one of my mates ran the corner, a few swims down. He had Hendrix on the bank that morning at 45.12, and when I saw it, it blew me away. I just knew I had to come back one day and catch that fish. It wasn't a case of wanting it now, it was a case of needing it. That fish had to be mine. This season, my main target water was Kingsmead Island Lake in the Colne Valley, but Hendrix, 5 years down the line, was still playing on my mind. I decided to get another ticket on Cleverley Mere, and this would be purely doing overnighters before work, arriving at 6, 7 in the evening and then leaving at 6 AM. That was the plan. Funnily enough, the first fish I caught was the last fish I caught, which was a tattoo common at £32. Although it's a good start, I was sort of worried that I was going to be on for a year of repeats, which wasn't good. I first started off fishing how I normally would, going about locating the fish, getting on them, and to be fair, I had one fish in mind, and that was Hendrix, so I decided to change my tactics. Although it's hard to single out one fish in particular, you can help yourself by choosing areas where it's known to get caught. On this particular occasion, I changed my approach and decided to fish a swim called the Grassy, where it's got good form, especially in the summer months, for getting caught around the island. There's actually a spot in the island, like a little cove in the bushes, called the Hendrix Hole, and it's not called that for nothing. So it seemed a good area to try and target the one that I wanted, which was Hendrix. It goes without saying, one of the 3 rods was always fished in the Hendrix Hole. I didn't really put much bait around that because of the bird life around the island. I suppose it's about 3 feet deep, so it was a handful of boilie around that when I fished, and then 2 rods in open water on the same spot, which saw quite a fair bit of bait, to be fair. The plan on that spot was to try and bring the fish in, get something going, and over time it really progressed, and the bites were coming pretty consistently. I think the reason I've done so well is when I was leaving in the mornings, I was putting a fair bit of boilie out, sell boilie on the open water spot, and a few mainline tiger nuts in the cove in the island because of the bird life. But it meant every time I come back in the evenings after work, the spot was primed. No one had been fishing it, and I'd quite often get a bite early on. It was around this time I decided to tweak my approach. I was doing well and catching consistently on Milky Toffee pop-ups. I was at work one day on the phone to Dave Levy, and I remember him telling me that he had Hendrix on the pineapple pop-up, and a few other anglers on the lake, they've all told me the same. Like, Hendrix is a sucker for a pineapple. So later on that evening, I returned to the lake for an overnighter, and I put 2 on the pineapple, 1 on the Milky Toffee, and within an hour I got a bite on the pineapple, and that bite happened to be the one I wanted. It was Hendrix, but unfortunately I lost it, it dropped off, and as I was reeling back, the fish has come up a gravel bar. It's only a foot deep on top, and it clearly showed itself. It was 99.9% Hendrix. I went on to land another 4 fish. One of them was a repeat, a fish called Mofo, but I was gutted about Hendrix, but I knew I was on the right track and I was getting closer to achieving my target. Over the next month, I didn't fish as much as I usually did. Probably missed a couple of weeks fishing due to personal things, work and that, but I did manage to get down. I always managed to bait up regular throughout the week, and I did manage a session where I caught a 26-pound mirror off of the baited spot in open water. As I got in my sleeping bag that night, I fully expected if I was going to get a bite, it would have been from open water, where most of the bites were coming from. But this night, I actually got a bite from the Hendrix hole, which obviously getting a bite from there, you're always wondering, is it the one? And as I played it away from the island, got it into open water, I waded out to net it, and I could clearly see the 2 drop scales on his left shoulder, and it went in the net. I had to double check it. I knew what it was, but I double checked it, and as I rolled it over, Hendrix was mine. Finally, it was my turn to hold Hendrix up for the camera. I had it at 39 pound. To be fair, it's usually bigger, but weight was irrelevant. I've caught bigger fish, and I suppose I've caught fish that are a lot harder to catch, but Hendrix is so special to me. It's where it all began for me on Cleverley Mere, and to finally settle a score and catch the one I really wanted, it's just amazing.
Thank you, Hendrix. It's over. Time to go to work.
Come on.